Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
Once upon a time, when King Edward III was the boss, there lived a poor boy named Dick Whittington. He didn't have any parents and lived far away from London in a small town. Dick was a smart boy. He heard stories about London having lots of gold, so he wanted to go there. One day, a big wagon with 8 horses and bells on their heads passed through the village. Dick thought it was going to London, so he asked the driver if he could walk along. The driver saw Dick was poor and alone, so he said yes. They went together to London. Dick was excited to see the streets made of gold. He ran through many streets, hoping to find the golden ones. In his village, he had seen a golden coin 3 times and knew it was worth a lot. He thought he could pick up some gold from the streets in London. But he didn't find any gold. Instead, he got tired and lost. He sat in a dark corner and fell asleep, feeling sad. The next morning, he woke up hungry and asked people for a little money to buy food. Finally, a kind man noticed how hungry Dick was. "Why don't you work, young man?" he asked kindly. "I want to," Dick replied, "but I don't know where to find any." "If you're ready," said the man, "come with me." He took Dick to a field where they were gathering hay. Dick worked hard and happily until all the hay was collected. But when the job was done, he was back to being poor again. Feeling very hungry once more, he sat down near the house of Mr. Fitzwarren, a wealthy merchant. The cook, who was grumpy, yelled at Dick, "Why are you loitering here, you lazy boy? If you don't leave, I'll pour hot dishwater on you." At that moment, Mr. Fitzwarren came home for lunch. Seeing a dirty, ragged boy lying by the door, he spoke kindly, "Why are you lying there, young man? You seem old enough to work. Are you just lazy?" "No, sir," Dick replied, "I want to work, but I don't know anyone here, and I'm sick because I haven't eaten." "Poor boy," Mr. Fitzwarren said sympathetically. "Get up and let me see what's wrong." Dick tried to stand but was too weak. He hadn't eaten in 3 days. The kind merchant ordered him to be brought inside, given a good meal, and assigned to help the cook with whatever dirty jobs needed doing. Dick would have been happy in this good house if it weren't for the mean cook. She scolded him all the time and even poured hot fat on him when there was no meat to roast. Although the cook was grumpy, the footman was kind. He had been with the family for a long time and was an older man with a good heart. He had once had a son around Dick's age who had passed away, so he felt sorry for Dick and sometimes gave him a little money to buy treats like gingerbread or a toy. The footman enjoyed reading and often entertained the other servants with funny stories from books. Dick liked listening to the footman and wished he could read too. So, when the footman gave him some money, Dick bought a small book and learned his letters with the footman's help. One day, Mr. Fitzwarren's daughter, Miss Alice, went for a walk, and Dick was told to dress nicely and walk behind her. Along the way, Miss Alice saw a poor woman with 2 children. She gave the woman some money but accidentally dropped her purse. Luckily, Dick saw it and picked it up, giving it back to her. Another time, Miss Alice was playing with her pet parrot near an open window. The parrot flew out of reach onto a high tree branch. None of the servants dared to climb up after it. When Dick heard about it, he quickly took off his coat, climbed the tree like a squirrel, and rescued the parrot. Miss Alice was grateful and became fond of Dick after that. The grumpy cook was a bit nicer now, but Dick had another problem to deal with. His bed was in a dusty attic full of holes in the floor and walls. Every night, rats and mice scurried over him, making noise that sounded like the walls were falling apart. One day, a visitor to Mr. Fitzwarren needed his shoes polished. Dick worked hard to make them shine, and the visitor gave him a penny. Dick decided to buy a cat to chase away the rodents. The next day, he found a girl selling a cat for a penny. She said it was a good mouse catcher. Dick kept the cat in the attic and shared his food with her. Soon, the rats and mice were gone, and Dick slept peacefully. Not long after, Mr. Fitzwarren had a ship ready to sail. He believed all his servants should have a chance at good luck, so he asked if they wanted to invest in the trading trip. They all had some money to invest except Dick, who had nothing. Miss Alice realized this and insisted Dick be included. She offered to put in money for him, but her father said Dick needed to contribute something of his own. Dick had nothing except the cat. "Bring your cat here, my boy," said Mr. Fitzwarren kindly, "and let her join the voyage." Dick went upstairs, fetched his cat, and handed her to the captain with tears in his eyes. Everyone laughed at Dick's unusual choice, but Miss Alice, feeling sorry for him, gave him some coins to buy another cat. The cook, feeling envious of Dick's kindness from Miss Alice, started treating him even worse, teasing him about sending his cat to sea. She mocked him, asking if he thought his cat would sell for enough money to buy a stick to beat him with. Finally, Dick couldn't take it anymore. He decided to leave his job, packed his few belongings, and left early one November morning. He walked until he reached Highgate, where he sat on a stone, now known as Whittington's Stone, wondering which way to go next. As he pondered, the bells of Bow Church chimed, and it sounded to him like they were saying, "Come back, Whittington. You'll be Lord Mayor of London." Lord Mayor of London, he thought to himself. Yes, I would endure almost anything to be Lord Mayor of London one day, riding in a fancy coach. I'll go back and not mind the cook's scolding, if it means I can be Lord Mayor of London someday. Dick returned to the house and started working before the cook came downstairs. Meanwhile, the ship, with the cat on board, sailed for a long time until it reached a part of the Barbary coast. The locals came to see the sailors and treated them well. They were eager to buy the goods from the ship. When the king received samples of the goods, he was impressed and invited the captain and chief mate to the palace. At the palace, they sat on beautiful carpets while the king and queen sat at the top end of the room. During dinner, rats and mice swarmed in, ruining the food. The captain was surprised and asked if the vermin were a problem. Yes, they replied, the king would give half his riches to be rid of them. They ruin his meals and disturb his sleep. The captain was thrilled. He remembered Dick's cat and told the king it could solve the problem. The king was delighted and offered to fill the ship with gold for the cat. "Bring the cat to me," the king said eagerly. The captain rushed back to the ship as another dinner was prepared. He returned just in time to see rats and mice ruining the food again. Without waiting, the cat jumped out of the captain's arms and quickly killed most of the rodents. The rest fled in fear. The king and queen were thrilled to be rid of the pests so easily. They wanted to see the cat up close. The captain called, "Puss, puss," and the cat jumped onto his lap. He then offered her to the queen, who was hesitant because of the cat's ability to kill so many rats and mice. But when she saw how gentle the cat was with the captain, she dared to touch her too, saying "Poot, poot," as she couldn't speak English. Eventually, the queen held the cat on her lap and grew comfortable with her until the cat fell asleep purring. When the king saw how the cat behaved and learned she would have kittens, he bought the entire cargo of the captain's ship and gave him a lot of gold for the cat. The captain set sail for London and arrived safely. One morning, as Mr. Fitzwarren sat at his desk in the counting house, there was a knock at the door. "Who's there?" asked Mr. Fitzwarren. "A friend," came the reply. It was the captain, accompanied by men carrying large chunks of gold from the King of Barbary. They told the story of the cat and showed the valuable gifts the king had sent to Dick. Mr. Fitzwarren, being a good man, insisted that all the treasure belonged to Dick. He sent for Dick, who was cleaning the cook's pots and felt dirty, so he hesitated to go to his master. But Mr. Fitzwarren insisted, giving him a chair to sit on. Dick thought they were joking, so he tried to excuse himself and return to work. "No, Mr. Whittington," said the merchant, "we're serious. The captain sold your cat to the King of Barbary and brought you more riches than I own. I hope you enjoy them for a long time." Mr. Fitzwarren instructed the men to open the treasure they had brought, saying, "Mr. Whittington, all you need to do now is find a safe place for it." Dick was overwhelmed with joy. He offered his master a share of the treasure out of gratitude, but Mr. Fitzwarren insisted it was all Dick's own and encouraged him to use it wisely. Dick also offered to share his fortune with his mistress, Miss Alice, and others, but they declined, expressing happiness for his success. However, Dick was too generous to keep it all for himself. He gave generous gifts to the captain, the mate, the sailors, the footman, and even the cook. Mr. Fitzwarren advised Dick to dress like a gentleman and offered him a place to stay in his house until he could arrange something better. After Dick cleaned up and dressed nicely, he became quite handsome. Miss Alice, who had been kind to him, began to see him differently and even considered him as a potential sweetheart. They soon fell in love, and Mr. Fitzwarren proposed they marry, which they happily agreed to. They had a grand wedding attended by important people from London, whom they later treated to a lavish feast. Sir Richard Whittington and his wife lived in luxury and had many children. He became Sheriff of London in 1360 and later served as Lord Mayor multiple times. He entertained King Henry V after the Battle of Agincourt, earning praise from the king. Sir Richard was knighted for his services and supported the poor by building a church, a college, and a hospital. A statue of Sir Richard Whittington holding his cat could be seen until 1780 over the Newgate Prison archway in Newgate Street.